We are live and welcome everyone to iSpring, another fabulous episode of iSpring's leadership series. And I love this series because we get to chat with the thought leaders in the e-learning world. And today I'm very excited because we have with us the one and only Jane Bozarth.
Woo!
Yeah, woo! And even more exciting, can I tell them the secret of what you have?
Sure.
Or not yet? But
Yep.
Jane has brought her new ukulele.
It came yesterday. It's my new electric ukulele.
Okay, electric, so are you plugging it into an amplifier somewhere?
I can. I don't have it plugged in now, but yes, it makes it very loud.
I love it. Well, for those of you who don't know Jane, which then I don't know how you're even in the e-learning world if you don't know Jane. And Jane,
I'm home right now, so I am surrounded. I've got the corgi. It's his birthday today. I've got the ukulele. I have all kinds of artifacts for our show if we need any entertainment. I have kazoos on lanyards because you just never know.
I've got my horn.
Yeah, I keep one of these. I had a metal one I used to travel with because you never know. You know, I have a ukulele I travel with. I have a kazoo because you never know when a luau might break out.
You know what? Always bring,
bring your own. But I used to have a metal. I used to have a metal kazoo, and I had to explain it to TSA one too many times, so I started traveling with a plastic one.
Yeah, in the e-learning world, when you're in training and learning, you know TSA is always going to snag you for something. Gadgets. I used to carry a rubber chicken and all kinds of stuff. They'd want to know, like, what do you do? Why are you carrying this stuff? But
right.
It's, you know, it keeps us, I always say it's just to entertain myself more than anything else. But
Exactly.
What we do. I just realized I'm seeing the top of my credenza. There we go. The little lip there. I kept going, what is that in the frame?
Closet door.
For those of you who don't know, because you don't come, well, you come from an industry, let's just say that is not known for being in the forefront of e-learning and technology, I think. Tell us how this all came about, what you're doing and how your journey began.
Well, what do you mean, my industry? You mean government?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, so here was the thing. I was a classroom trainer more years ago now than I like to say, but I was a classroom trainer, and I'm very lucky that I live near Raleigh, North Carolina. We have all of these wonderful universities. We've got NC State, we've got Duke, we've got University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, which is where I had done my undergraduate work, and the state does not offer very many perks, but one of the things that we do have is tuition reimbursements for the colleges. So you can take classes, and as long as your boss signs off, you get reimbursed after you pass them, and so as a perk, sometimes you can offer that to an employee because we can't really give raises. We don't have those kind of things at our discretion. So my boss asked if I wanted to get a master's, and at the time, that was when online distance education was literally nothing but scrolling pages of text.
Right.
Back in a homemade something that they had built at NC State. And it was horrible. I'm a reader, so I didn't mind it, I think, as much as maybe others would, but I saw immediately how delivering content online could solve a lot of problems, because actually this is a dirty little secret we don't say much about in training, but a great deal of what we do is not performance training. It is compliance stuff. It's don't break the rule, don't break the policy, here's how to use the internet, it isn't really, here's how to assemble the car. It's not, that kind of stuff. So a lot of it really is sort of content that is delivered via lecture, via slides. At the time I was with the North Carolina Justice Department, we had 1,600 staff in 100 counties. People don't realize North Carolina is as big as it is. It's 550 miles from tip to tip, from the mountains to the beach, the Outer Banks. So we were having people that, drive to Raleigh and spending the night in hotels to have an EEO officer read screens about harassment. I mean, it's just crazy. So I saw a lot of applications for online learning, and what happened is that everyone around me is saying, we can't do that, it's too expensive, and I just said, well, what could we do that isn't expensive? And so that ended up being my master's thesis. That ended up being published as my first book. And so here is the mixed blessing of that. It made me kind of famous in a certain niche of how to do things, how to bootstrap it, how to do it if you don't have a lot of resources, how to take kind of a positive deviant approach. The downside of that is that nobody ever wants to give me any money. time where, oh, Jane can figure it out. Jane won't ever need any money. Jane can do it. And anybody that calls me wanting consulting or something, they're all very poor. I mean, it was probably a bad, a bad niche to follow. But I was known for years as, oh, that's the one who's developing the e-learning with the vaporware. So I don't know that we were in the forefront. I don't know that we are, but it was just sort of a matter of if you have a problem and you see a way to solve it, just figure it out and don't wait until every resource is in place, because with the government you will wait a very long time. I mean, you know, that's why a lot of stuff doesn't get done. I am very fortunate to have worked for people who supported all that, and who, if we really did need to buy a license for this, or a stock art gallery, or you know, an authoring tool, they knew how to get the money for that. I was never going to have $100,000 to just hire a bunch of programmers, but I could get littler things if I needed it. And so you know, that's kind of how the whole career started. And then I moved into e-learning, design and development and consulting, and then that has morphed into, because again, it's a matter of 3 tools that are widely available, I moved to the social media focus, which is really more my job now.
Yeah, and your latest book is called Show Your Work, which I love. There it is, right there. Show Your Work.
And it's beautiful. For those of you who have not seen it yet, it's a beautiful picture book.
Well, how could it not be? It's all about show and tell.
It is. It's a beautiful picture book in many colors with many images.
With what I like is lots of large font.
Yeah, and there's a lot of large font. It's easy to read. It's easy on the eyes.
Well, what I love about it, you don't just talk about the importance of social learning and sharing, but you show so many great examples for people who they hear about it, but they don't know how to apply it. But what made you decide to write this book?
A couple of years ago, I was invited to participate in an Ignite session at DevLearn, which is kind of like a quick rapid fire series of slides that automatically forward, and you've got 6 minutes to say your piece. And the topic was what is going to be the thing that can change that can change the way we learn at work. What do you see as the thing that's coming? And you know, most of my friends are into things like 3D printing or robotics or something that's really high-end tech that way. And what I saw, because this was partly from my dissertation research, partly because my doctorate focused a lot on social learning, was the fact that we have organizations so concerned about knowledge management and doing it badly, where I saw us finally at sort of a sweet spot where we had good technologies that people like using, with technologies sometimes they were even willing to pay for and do on their own. So I saw a real opportunity and a real sort of meeting of a number of components to support people sharing knowledge in a way we hadn't considered. And I think historically, management has had a view that it owned the data that was in your head. And if they sat Gina down and said, write down everything you do, that somehow that would magically actually capture what you did, and that we could then extract bits of that as we needed. If Gina left, or if we needed to train someone else, or she was out sick, or we needed a duplicate. The problem with that is that asking you to sit down and write down what you do, you will do that pretty well, but you don't really tell us how you get things done.
Oh, interesting.
Right? Writing down what you do is not the same as how you get things done. And my example for years has been, do you remember Radar O'Reilly on the MASH show? You remember Radar? He knew when things were happening before they happened. And I think that's the knowledge worker. You know, what we do most days is probably accurate, but it doesn't. Mostly, really, what we do is exception handling. You know, knowing what to do if you're running the factory floor according to a protocol and suddenly you've got a flu epidemic. Right, and half the staff is out. You don't really document that. So Radar, my Radar Riley comparison, we had a wonderful guy who handled our budget stuff, which is an angel to have when you're in government. You know, somebody who can get purchasing done and get checks cut. That is who you need to have on your side. And so Grant was going to lead it. Grant could get a check cut on a day when they didn't do that. Grant could get a vendor demo from somebody who didn't do that. He could get us a free trial extended for a year. I mean, he knew how to get stuff done. And, you know, writing that down was fine, but what we found out after he left, and we never really recovered. After he went to a promotion, he's actually gone very high on the ladder now. But what we found out after he left is that a lot of that was in his relationships. You know, you have to go be nice to Gina, pretty often if you expect her to cut a check as a favor later.
That is true.
And that's an investment of your time. That's sort of something you don't really write down. And yeah, I could call her and ask her to cut a check tomorrow if that's not a day they do it. And she's not doing that for me, but she would do it for him. So I think we don't capture the right information. We have meetings at which people talk about activities and other meetings.
Right.
They don't really say, and this is the struggle I had, and this was a big obstacle. So I think one of the key things about showing your work is to ask different questions, not just what do you do, but can you show me how to do that? How did you get that done? What was hard about that? What did you have to learn in order to do that? Who helps you with that? Can you show me how you did that? People love to talk about their work.
Right.
But if you're just asking for a list of what activities they did last week, nobody's interested in that, including that I answered 72 emails, and I had 14 calls, and I flew to Ohio. You know, that's not what you do. You know what I mean? So solving the organizational problem of actually understanding how Grant got things done is one of the key issues when we talk about people showing their work better. And now we have so many great tools for that. You have this array of things you can choose from. I mean, you can post a picture, you can write a quick blog post, you can just I was the first person to ever drop screenshots into weekly status reports, and it kind of freaked management out. They didn't know what to make of it, but they couldn't say there was anything wrong. Right, here's a picture of my class generated in this discussion that we had. I took pictures of the flip charts. Management really didn't know what to think of that.
Why is she doing this? Why is she showing?
Why is she doing it? So, but we also are at an age. You know, back when I was trying to introduce e-learning, the pushback was everybody doesn't have a computer. Well, that's kind of been solved. Then the pushback was people don't know how to use these computers. Well, we have people willing to buy $400 phones and pay for data plans on their own. So we really have pushed past. I think organizations still like to throw it out there, but it's there. Pew Internet Research a couple of years ago said that half of American adults online are sharing and uploading their own images.
Right.
So, you know, if you can get the Xerox guy to take a picture of why the machine is broken or the picture of how he fixed a shim to hold a tray steady, that is way more valuable than him filling out a report somebody may not see for 3 months, right? Or sending an email that goes between you and Gina but nobody else has access to, right? So we have just a lot of stuff going on. My other big concern in government, and I think this is true of most people in corporate sector, but we spend a lot of our time talking about the college educated people at desk. We talk about sales, we talk about customer service. In my world, maybe a quarter, maybe a third of our workforce is housekeepers, groundskeepers, food service workers, prison guards, sometimes medical staff, who I think have been, well, I know that they've been marginalized over the years. They have been excluded from a lot of these conversations, and now, you know, we have a way to include them that doesn't involve writing essay-length documentation of a procedure. They can just take a picture and send it to somebody. This is how I made this topiary. This is how you serve hot plates to 300 people at a time. You know, you and I couldn't do that. We can have all the college educations we want. Right. But to understand how you serve 300 baked Alaskas with the meringues warm all at one time is something we don't know how to do, but you could do a 30-second video of that, right? And have it ready. So we're including people better. I'll shut up now. I'm sorry.
No, I just think that's so brilliant because they're such simple things that people are already doing in the personal world. They're already taking pictures. They're already sharing all this content in a social setting, but when we come to work, we think we forget. We forget how to do that. Do you? It's like, oh yeah, I still carry my phone with me at work. But do you think that one of the things that hinder people from sharing more at work is the fear of, if I share, it makes me dispensable?
You know what I hear more is, if I share, it makes me look egotistical.
Oh, interesting. So they feel
like I'm bragging because I did this thing, or I solved that thing, or I got that done, and it's really not supposed to be about you. It's supposed to be about your work. Right. Especially, you know, my question I say is, could somebody else learn from this? Would somebody else find this useful? Is there something here that somebody else? And I think we've all had the experience of finishing a project and finding out somebody in another building had already done it. of having to really struggle to learn, like to work a piece of software or run an application and find out somebody down the hall does it in their sleep. I mean, I think helping people understand we're just trying to make connections. But one thing I want to be really clear about, because you and I are geeky girls, is that this may not involve any technology at all. It may be in a staff meeting just saying, show me how you did that, rather than read me your list of 12 things you did on Tuesday, right? It may not involve any technology, and depending on who you're sharing with, it may never see a social tool. It may never go online anywhere. It may stay in your SharePoint. It may, I hate to say it'll go into email, but that might happen. But everything doesn't have to be public all the time, and every minute of your day doesn't need to be shared.
Right.
But I would think about, is this useful to someone else, or did I have to struggle to learn it, or could I save somebody time? And I'll tell you what, YouTube is like a stunning example of people showing their work.
It really, it was like, because as you were saying that, I thought, you know, a couple years ago, we had a little teenage boy doing some weed whacking in our yard, and the weed whacker ran out of gas, and he said, I think you have to mix oil with it, and I didn't know, and my daughter says, you should look on YouTube. And I thought, who would create a video about mixing oil and gas? No one's going to take the time to do it. There were 17 videos on that particular brand of whacker from just a user who happened to realize, oh, maybe like you said, maybe this would be helpful for someone else. And it wasn't professionally produced. It wasn't put out by the manufacturer. It was the end user sharing their knowledge. And I thought, that is such a great example of what do we have in our head that maybe someone else is searching, whether it's searching the internet or, like you said, they're asking all their friends and neighbors.
Right. Well, and I think your point is right. We do this all the time in our free time. This is how I learned to knit that, and this is how I learned to make the caramel apples, and this is how I learned to fix the weed whacker. And we go to work for 8 hours and don't think to do it there. It's the very same.
It is. And I think another thing is, it doesn't have to be public. Like,
no.
We created a YouTube channel. Well, we have, it's, you know, our main YouTube channel, but then we have a private playlist that's all the stuff just for us learning and us having Google Hangouts and things that you can go back and refer to. So, you know, I think people might fear, I don't want to put this out to the public. Well, it doesn't have to.
No.
It's private as well. So that's another helpful piece. What are some of the best examples you found in your research for this book of people showing their work?
Can I say something first, and don't let me forget you just asked that?
Yeah.
One of the things I think is important too is it isn't necessarily the highlight or the big shining moment. I think that's what we capture in activity reports and when we're asked to give a 2-minute talk at a meeting or something. You know, a friend of ours, I think you probably know, Allison Michaels, who was with Yammer and has just moved to Hootsuite recently, used to, like, late on a Thursday when everybody was kind of dragging, someone would just say, what's everybody working on right this minute? And everybody would answer, and it gave you a really good shot of how people actually spend their day, which I think is something we miss a lot. We kind of sort of know what Gina does, but we don't always know when she's really in the weeds, or she really needs to be uninterrupted for a couple hours, or she's having to really struggle to learn to do this thing she seems to be so great at. And it really helped capture more, again, what people really do and how they're getting things done. I did this at my office one day, and it turned out of 9 of us, 6 of us were working on the same request from a customer without knowing it. She had followed up and down the hallway until she, you know, and she had everybody spinning plates for her. And that would never have come out at a staff meeting, right? It's not going to come out on a report.
Right.
But we all were like, oh, I know this game. I'm sorry, you asked another question though. Well, oh, examples.
Yeah, what's some of the really unique examples of people sharing and showing their work to learn from each other?
I see examples of nonprofits and charity organizations, rather than just saying we need money, we need money. I see them doing things like a day in the life. Doctors Without Borders did a wonderful day in the life of a doctor, showing what she was actually doing. So she wakes up and there's a woman in labor, and she goes through the day doing other things, and they check on it. At the end of the day, there's a photo of her holding the baby, and bombs are going off this whole time. Wow. She's in a war zone trying to work in tents without running water, right? And so a really interesting look at what her actual day is like, I think, is a good one. One of my favorites is it's not what I got things done, but it's how I failed and how I fixed it and what I would do next time, which can be actually more helpful. And the example I have for that, and it's in the Pinterest link I put in the chat.
Right.
The 2010 National Teacher of the Year is a woman named Sarah Brown Wessling, and she's a lovely person. She's very accessible if you ever need to talk to her. But she was specializing in helping other teachers implement Common Core standards in their classrooms. And one day she was delivering a lesson on the Crucible, and she was being filmed for this lesson of how to do this fabulous integration of the Common Core standards. And the thing, it just exploded on her. Everything went wrong. The kids didn't understand the assignment. The kids started getting upset. Everybody got tense. You know, most people would stop the camera, right?
Right.
She let the camera keep running. And after the end of the class, she had 5 minutes to fix this before the next class came in to do it again. And she talked through, these had been my assumptions out loud. She's talking to the camera. Well, this is what I assumed, and I made mistakes about their level of understanding. I made wrong assumptions about their vocabulary about this. And one of the most interesting things she said was, you know, they don't usually act this way. They got really upset and kind of getting snippy and wound up. She said, they don't usually act this way. So I had to ask myself, what had I done? So she never blamed the kids. She took responsibility, and she said, so this is what I'm going to do before the next class gets here. We're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and I'm going to do that. And then they film her fixing it. So my question about it to you, Ms. Schreck, what is more useful to a novice teacher, a 5-minute video of the fabulous Sarah and her perfect lesson plan, or a 30-minute video of a really great teacher just failing and saying, this is what I did wrong, this is how I fixed it, this is what I would do next time? I mean, what's more useful?
Yeah, I love that idea. And you wonder, like, you have to make it safe for people to feel like they're not going to be punished for sharing failures.
There are a lot of culture. There's a big confidence issue there that she felt it's okay to say I failed at this and it's not the end of my ego. There is a principal somewhere that doesn't mind that she recorded it and it's online for 1 million people to see. So there are culture issues and trust issues, but I think that's a really good example of showing your work. Taking photographs of what you're working on. I pulled up a slide deck so I could look for some examples while we were talking of some things. The eLearning Guild, at most of their events, they do an evening special thing in the evening in the expo area called a Demo Fest, usually, or something like that, where people come from everywhere and just sit down at 100 tables and show off something that they worked on, a program they developed. And you have a chance to talk to them about how did they do it, what tools did they use, where did they get the funding, where did they do it without any funding. And it's just a really good place to show off. Lowe's Home Improvement did a leadership initiative a few years back, and one of their findings was their best suggestions came from employees the farthest away from headquarters.
Oh, interesting.
So figuring out how to do this so you can reach way out and not just the people who are in the physical building, which is I think a really good example. I see people ask for help, saying, I got this project, I don't know what to do with it, who has ideas? And people will jump in and say, this is how I would do that, this is how I would do this. And that can be very helpful. I see people narrating as they go. Remember Bob Ross? Remember the happy little trees that he used to paint? All he did was talk. Well, okay, we're going to put a little diamond here, and there should be a bird, and he just talks.
And remember, he also, when he would make a mistake, he would emphasize the fact that there's never a mistake you can.
Never a mistake. You can always fix it. I see interesting use of quick video nowadays. I see people who go to conferences. At the end of the day, they will just stop and do a because a lot of times an organization can only send one person.
Right.
To an event, or 1 or 2 people, and at the end of the day, they just do a quick 3-minute video. These are the speakers I saw. This is something I'm taking away. This is somebody whose book we might want to try at the office. You know, just quick examples like that.
Within an organization, fun things you could do is, I mean, I love the idea of going around your organization to all the, the management team or people who have been there for a while and say, what are 2 things you know now that you wish you would have known when you first started here? Another thing might be to do a challenge throughout the organization to create one of those short videos and say we're going to have a movie day and everyone shares their movies of what they did that I love in the life.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, one of the key things, and I either use this in the book or I use it in the presentation or maybe both. It's you, actually. You, years ago, one morning said that you needed to try out Skype 10-way video calling. And whoever was awake at the moment, we all got on the call with you. And our big takeaway was that there's a reason things are in beta. Do you remember? There's a reason things are in beta.
I still have my duct tape on hand.
But what you did that day was you hit the record button.
Right.
So other people could see that we had tried this and we had problems and these were what we learned. And I think the last time I saw it, it had 1,000 views.
That's too funny.
It had a lot of views, and then we lost the file. The file disappeared. You never found it again. So, but it was good while it lasted.
Yeah, it was us just practicing and playing with tools. And we even mentioned that today when we were logging on to Google+. Every time we log on to Google+, it seems like there's something that's changed. But you know, it's part of exploring. It's part of learning. It's part of this whole crazy world that we live in with technology. Is just don't be afraid to get out there and again, record, capture, take pictures to show what you're doing and how you learned, how you failed, what'd you do. I think the older we get, too, we don't mind sharing. I'm always talking more about things that went wrong and what I did instead of.
Right.
I think when you're there's that.
I think that's true for a certain kind of person. I still run into the Buddha on the hill who needs to be the expert, who knows everything and doesn't make mistakes and isn't going to tell everything they know, because back to your earlier point, then that would give too much away. But about the video, the Skype video calling example with you, it was that you turned the recorder on, I think, that really made the difference. Was that we spent the time doing this and we learned stuff from it, and we had a record of that other people who had not been online that morning when you happened to ask could see it. And I think, again, that's what we forget to do, is to take a picture of it, take a screenshot of it, do a quick recording of something.
Right.
And just turn the recorder on. Terry Brock, you know Terry. I think he was actually in that event that day. Terry Brock one day, when Blogger introduced video blogging, Terry Brock tried to do video blogging, and he recorded his attempt at video blogging, so there was a video of his attempt at video blogging. It was very meta, and it was good. And he uploaded that as, here's my example of a video of learning to blog on video. It was fabulous. I think just remembering that somebody else might find it useful, and don't make a lot of assumptions about that. I think that we do stuff all the time. I had a brother who could hang wallpaper. It is not in my skill set to hang wallpaper, but you know, people who can do something just sort of, oh, you just do this and you hang this here, then you do it.
Yeah.
They don't think to slow it down a little and just make a video. You don't have to try to write down the steps, but slow it down a little and talk about the techniques. Again, I think that takes us back to YouTube. It'd be nothing but people doing that. So. It
is, and to me, I love it. There's nothing you can't learn. I can remember being about a month ago, I was speaking at a group, and I asked the audience, who's learned something obscure from YouTube? And this man stood up and he said, I learned how to do a sock bun on my daughter's hair. And everybody went crazy. And he said, and then he said, there are a lot of videos on how to do sock buns. Yes.
Years ago, what was it, a couple years ago? Rainbow Loom, that was the big thing. There were 8 million Rainbow Loom video. I don't know. And there was a woman who was so much better, and everybody wanted to watch her videos. There was like a Rainbow Loom star. Do you remember that? I'm not making this up. I'm sure.
No, that's true. I just thought it was like, I was picturing this dad at home with his kids trying to get them ready for school, and the daughter wanting a bun, and he actually went to YouTube. It's like, and again, we're kind of focusing a lot on video, but I think just taking the time, like you said, it doesn't have to be write things down, fill out forms and reports. It's just take the time to share in any format what you're doing.
There are some tools that can help. There's an interesting little tool called Snap Guide. I'll put that in chat, that just came out recently, that kind of forces you to make it simple and stick to a few steps. You put the text here, you put the picture there, and it sort of forces you into a template for doing that. That I think would be great with things like how to do the bun or how to fix.
Right.
There are a lot of ways to do it. You can use any tool you're comfortable with. Use what your organization has in place. Use those weekly reports, but twist them a little. Show another way those can be used. I think one of my biggest concerns are people who are trying to overcomplicate this. I see it turning into, we got to have processes, and it's got to have 14 steps, and we have to have a committee to vet, and it's, you know, that's so not the point. If it takes us back to the original problem with knowledge management, of trying to over-engineer it and over-formalize it, when the guy who fixes the washing machine ain't got time to stop and fill out 17 forms about how he's showing his work yesterday and going to 3 meetings about it. I mean, it defeats the purpose.
I've just shared one example. There was an example recently that someone said their company, it was an HVAC guy, did a video on something in the air filters, and it was something, part of the machine, if you will, that he was fixing. He did just a quick little video, but then he put a QR code sticker on the machine so that later someone can just come along. They don't even have to look it up. They just scan it and up pops the video on what he did and how he did it. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's brilliant.
So simple.
It wasn't a process they had to do. He just thought of, this might be helpful. I wish I would have had something to look at, and created that and just put the link into a QR code and boom, slapped it on there. And I thought, what are we doing within our jobs that we need to slow down? Like you said, screen capture, take a picture, something to share next time someone's in that same spot.
I read recently, and I need to talk. I need to talk to Tech Smith. We're going to do a webinar or something together soon. But Tech Smith said that Virgin Media had bought all their employees Snagit so they could do this.
Oh, interesting to do.
So they could capture stuff more quickly and just have it available to share. But it's also, like you said, I think we need to get away from it. Needs to be a store-bought, fancy-dancy, polished video. People don't care much about that if they're just standing there trying to figure out how to make the paper fit the tray. They don't care.
And then on ours, we all download on our team Sketch, which is a free tool, part of Evernote. And we use on our phones, we use Sketch on our screens. If we're trying to, someone says, I can't find this on Google+, how do you log in and do a screenshot, and then you can put arrows and write on it. And that's, there's nothing formal or professional. It's like, and then you just shoot it over in an email or a text to that person, and that's really helpful.
And nobody cares. Nobody cares that it's not, it doesn't star Meryl Streep. Really? Just, I need to know this now. But then, the trick is with a lot of this kind of stuff, it doesn't need to be over-formalized, but we do need to be able to find it. Where did I see that thing Gina did on that thing? We need to have some agreed-upon place. We'll put most of this stuff or some folder. It's, we do need to be able to find it. One of the challenges with technology is that stuff goes out of date. This guy's thing that goes to his QR code may be bad in a year. Right. And we get rid of that and update it. So figuring out how to manage that can be a challenge. But again, I try not to over-formalize and over-engineer any more than I have.
I go create a Google document and put a Google file and create a place where you can put categories of things that your team might want to access. Create a YouTube channel and have a playlist that's just for your team, or look for ways that are free and easy that are already established. You don't have to go create all these. It's out there. It's free.
Yeah.
Jane, I feel like we could talk all day.
We could talk all day. Yeah. And we can move on to other things anytime you like. Oh, we have any other time?
I know, and it's already been 30 minutes. Where can people find your fabulous book? Because this would be a great holiday gift idea.
It would, because it's a gorgeous picture book. I'm finding something for you for today. It is available Amazon worldwide. It's available for most anybody, anytime. You can get it at bigger bookstores in bigger markets like New York, Boston, big LA. It's harder to find in Podunk, North Carolina, probably. So I would go with probably with Amazon. The publisher is Wiley, so you could get it there. And I will say, I don't usually say this. I usually would say get the e-reader version, but it really is a gorgeous book. And if you're so inclined, the paper copy is really quite lovely. I am also talking about this later today in a webinar that you can register for. It's free. It'll be at 2 o'clock Eastern, and I have lots of screenshots, lots of examples, some of which we talked about today. And I'm doing one again for the UK later this month, so there's a couple of opportunities to come. So get the book from Amazon, get the book from Make Your Bookstore, stock it and order it. You can check at trade shows. Sometimes they're there, sometimes they're not, but I do think the paper copy's prettier. And thank you for having me, Ms. Schreck.
We're thrilled to share information. Yeah. And again, on the iSpring page, there's going to be some fun things about having everyone show their work. So make sure to check back on the iSpring page, and we'll be showing their work there. And Jane, to follow you and find more information to connect with you, we know on Twitter you are at Jane Bozarth. That's pretty easy.
And for people who want more information about the book, what happened is I had more examples than we had pages, so the spillover and things as they've emerged since, I keep on this Pinterest board that I mentioned here in the first bit of information, so you can get information about the book there, but there's also a lot of examples and usually a detail about what sharing tool they use, whether it was a blog or a video clip or Vine. to maybe help give you some ideas of how this works.
Cool.
Yay, Pinterest!
Yay, and you know what? We had fun because it was Jane time.
All right, thanks everybody.
Thank you, Jane.
Rock on. Bye.
We have to end with the ukulele. I love it.
Because it's new and it just got here and I love it. Bye.